Hi, I'm Sydney, and I am a servant of the Almighty God. Continuing the series Recognizing God's Omnipotence, today I want to focus on something that I focus on, which is basically God's omnipotence that we refer to as nature, the manifestation of God's omnipotence. Why the emphasis on nature? And even things like the beginnings about us being part of random evolution, because think about religions today. Every religion recognizes the all-powerful creator. Every religion refers to God, and yet we have allowed to slip into this amorphous nature, a word which was created fairly recently, that initially was about what we just observed, but now it has morphed into this all-powerful force that bestows upon creatures special abilities. And when I talk about amphibians, birds and navigation and all of this was bestowed upon these creatures by nature. And religions are just focused on dividing us. Doesn't matter. It's like religion creates sects, this sect, and they all are ignoring the great unifying. You see, the best way to learn about someone is not just by what they say, but look at their works. Look at what they put out there. And so we have right in front of us, we see amazing things. Every time we would like to put a little rule around something that says this is how things work, we see, rule breakers. We see fish that animals that live in the sea but breathe air, and yet they can, like the whales, they can, basically survive without taking a breath for, I think it's like several hours. You can Google it, of course. The deepest a whale has dived, and when you think about the pressures, so this is more in line with what religion teaches us about God. With man, this may not be possible, but with God, all things are possible. I refer to, us having this internal skeleton. There are things that have an external skeleton, crabs and shrimp and stuff. And then you have things that have no skeleton, like an octopus, and yet they demonstrate intelligence. We see things when I talk about the corolla spider and all of this stuff. So we see these special things. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do something about this little fish that leaves the ocean and lives in a mangrove, and that it's amazing. It's either the fish, one of his great grandfathers or grandmothers or whatever decided, I want to go on land. And I'm going to use my fins to walk on land. And I'm going to, I can breathe air, just keep my gills wet. We have amphibians who decided, I'm going to leave, frogs that decided, when I'm a baby, I am going to swim. And at some point, I'm going to change my, my gills and develop, like little lungs. And I can still get air through my skin. And, so all of these things, it's amazing. We are such a logical civilization, and yet this is the part, for some interesting reason, if you really think about it, we attribute all of this intelligence either to the animal. Because, the mud skipper, when I talk about that, I'll do that after this, it seems like this fish made the decision that I wanted to go on land. And it lives in the mangrove. And the mangrove trees themselves, they decided to adapt so that they can expel extra salt and they can get, the nutrients out of the soil, and they can keep themselves above the salty water. So the trees decided that. Just think about it. Now, if this is some random thing, when we talk about nature, then nature was able to manipulate the genes so that things behave a certain way, and it doesn't, because you take another plant and you just stick it in the mud there, it dies. And so at some point you see the intelligent engineering. And the beautiful thing about nature, it's unifying. The mud skipper, the elephant, all of these fishes, like we see fishes that in this vertical plane, we see fishes that, like the soul, and we see all of these amazing things, and we attribute it somehow either to the fish. The fish made a decision that, I'm going to swim like this. I'm going to be upright. I'm going to have so many fins. The fish decided that. Just think about it. When you see, like a shark with so many gills, oh, this fish decided that. Or nature, and without recognizing that nature is the manifestation of God's omnipotence, we say nature came in, and nature went and manipulated the DNA of this plant or this animal, because it's everywhere. We see specialization. We always attribute that without recognizing the intelligence and the benevolence of that creation comes from God. The supreme designer, architect, creator of all things. Just look around you. Look, any animal, any plant, you see specialization, intelligence, and that is the manifestation of God's omnipotence. The really important thing for us today is to recognize the unifying of nature. It unifies, it works the same for all of us. There are some simple things that, again, we see it's natural. Things like the wind that brings, it takes it manipulates, it enables the movement of even the soil, the rain, the weather, all of these things. The ocean, the way it moves, the tides, all of these things. And it really comes down to, with God, all things are possible, and He provides for us. He gives us the seasons. The trees know when to, there are certain seasons, so again, you don't see the manipulation. This is not a robotic system. God created this, designed this, and everything moves in harmony so that we can have crops. We can have all the things. He provides for us. He provides for the birds. All of these things, He designed them, and He created this system. And we recognize it. We say, oh yeah, nature provides. Because religions are all focused on dividing us. And they seem totally ignorant, totally blind to that which is now being revealed, that it's a manifestation of God's omnipotence. We see it everywhere. And so that the work of God is being usurped by this amorphous, and especially those who will tell you, there is no God, there is no God. They say that when men can't understand things, well, that's when we go to God. I am very, very extremely logical, but when you look at things and you look for answers, you don't see God. What you see, it's the manifestation, the intelligence in the design. And this is why science now tacitly accepts Mother Nature, or an intelligent, some sort of intelligent being, but they will not attribute it to God. But we know, we recognize, no, it has totally gone away from this random stuff to everything. We look at all these synergies, all this symbiotic relationship between, we look at sea anemones, and there's this clownfish that does not get hurt by it. We see this symbiotic relationship between plants and animals. We see all of these things, and we see intelligence there. Think about it. Could the fish decide that I am not going to be poisoned by this? Could the fish decide that? Could the sea anemone decide that this fish, protects me, so I am going to work? Think about it. Just think about it for a moment. How could these animals and plants that we recognize do not have that intelligence suddenly decide? They make the decision. So we see that's external force, because it's not as if they communicate. It's like when I talk about, they do not have a verbal or written tradition to pass this knowledge down. Look, if they could, I would love to have my eyes adapted so I can see as well as at night as I could during the day. Wouldn't you? So many of us, I would love to be able to breathe underwater. We are much more intelligent. If these plants and animals could make those decisions and adapt themselves, then we would have done this. Because we created mermaids, because we wanted to see under and live with the fishes. We would all love to do these things, but we cannot. It's kind of like when we design, with artificial intelligence, we design a car. The car can accelerate, it can turn right, it can turn left. It cannot turn into a plane. Same with us. We can adapt. Certain things will change with us because he gives us free will, and even within us, these systems that we don't control. When we go to sleep, we don't control our breathing. We don't control our breathing. These are autonomous systems that occur within us for our benefit. Just as he gave us all these things that are explicit in the weather, in nature, that benefits us. And as we've heard, just he loves us. And just as he provides for the birds and the bees and the trees, he provides for us. He reveals so that we can benefit and we can grow. Our civilization is a product of these revelations. We need to recognize the value of nature, and we can get to humanity's inflection point when religions recognize that he gave us nature to show us an example how different species can all coexist. Everywhere in the world, we look at the oceans, we look on land, we see these systems that all coexist. And we can. We should be the ones learning to nurture and take care of these things. We should be the stewards of these things. We must also learn to love and care for every one of his creations, because he gave us that position. I hope you would think about these things and question more. Question these things. Whenever you hear, nature did this and nature said, okay, so nature has the ability. Don't just look on the outside. Think about the DNA that has to be manipulated, the genes that have to be manipulated to do these things. And nature did that without all these mistakes, because at first it was random. So recognize these things. But also, nature is a unifier. It works for all of us, everywhere. All God's creations are a part of it. He designed this system so that we all can live in harmony if we choose. And when we start recognizing our divine creator. I want to thank you for taking the time, and I hope that this series, gets you thinking about stuff, and so that we can move towards humanity's inflection point as nature teaches us that this system, this wonderful system, can work for all of us with love, with Haley, honesty, altruism, love, and inclusion, as he has designed and intends for all of us. We'll get there, but these things, that the knowledge gets us there sooner, like learning about electricity and all the things that we learn, medicine and all the technologies, the revelations that I speak of as the rules of creation. We call it the laws of nature, the rules of creation. This is how things were created, a periodic table, all of these things. So once again, I want to thank you for taking the time for viewing this. And until next time, may God bless us all. Thank you.